The young SEAL pushed past him without a word. Not even a glance. Just a shoulder check in the narrow hallway, gym bag swinging, energy drink in hand. The old man steadied himself against the wall. He said nothing. He never did. He wore gray coveralls. His name was stitched above the pocket. Ray, just Ray. He carried a mop and a yellow bucket on wheels. The water inside was cloudy. The smell of disinfectant followed him everywhere. He was 71 years old. He had been cleaning this building for 3 years. The Naval Special Warfare Facility in Coronado was one of the most respected places in the military. The men who trained here were elite. They moved like sharks, confident, dangerous, proud. Ray cleaned up after them. He wiped down the benches. He scrubbed the showers. He emptied the trash cans filled with protein bar wrappers and tape from their hands. He worked early mornings, late nights, weekends. He never spoke unless spoken to. Most of them never spoke to him at all. The gym was loud that morning. Weights clanging, men shouting counts, someone laughing too loud near the squat rack. Ray pushed his cart past the free weights. His boots squeaked on the rubber floor. His back was stiff. His hands were spotted with age. A group of younger SEALs stood near the pull-up bars. They were in their 20s, broad shoulders, tattoos down their arms. They had that look, the one that said they owned the room. One of them glanced over as Ray bent down to pick up a towel someone had thrown on the floor. "Yo, old man," the SEAL said, "you missed a spot." He pointed to a puddle of spilled pre-workout near the water fountain. Ray nodded. He didn't smile. He just pushed his cart toward it. "Man's gotta be like 100, another one muttered. "Why they got someone that old cleaning in here? Probably can't do anything else." They weren't whispering. They didn't care if he heard. Ray knelt down with a rag. His knees cracked. He wiped the floor slowly, carefully. One of the SEALs stepped over him without pausing his conversation. Ray stayed low. He finished the job. He stood up, joints aching, and moved on. He had heard worse. There was a new commanding officer on base. Commander Hale. He was in his 50s, lean, sharp eyes, gray at the temples. He had been a SEAL for over 30 years. He had seen combat in places most people couldn't find on a map. He walked into the gym that afternoon with a clipboard and a cup of coffee. He was doing walkthroughs, inspections, getting a feel for his new post. He moved through the weight room, nodding at a few men, watching their form, taking notes. Then he saw Ray. The old man was by the far wall, wiping down a mirror. His back was to the room. His head was down. Hale paused. Something about the way the man moved, slow, steady, deliberate. Hale walked closer. Ray didn't notice him at first. He was focused on the glass, streaks from someone's handprints. He wiped them away in smooth circles. Hale stopped a few feet behind him. That's when he saw it. Just above the collar of Ray's coveralls. A tattoo. Faded, black ink turned grayish-blue with time. It was small, partially hidden by the fabric. But Hale recognized it immediately. A trident. Not just any trident. The SEAL trident. But this one was different. It had a specific design, an older style, the kind they used decades ago. And beneath it, just barely visible, were numbers. Hale's jaw tightened. He stepped closer. "Excuse me," he said quietly. Ray turned. His face was calm, weathered, deep lines around his eyes. "Yes, sir." His voice was rough, soft. Hale nodded toward his neck. "That ink, how long have you had it?" Ray's hand moved instinctively to his collar. He tugged it up slightly. "Long time, sir." "Where'd you get it?" Ray hesitated, just for a moment. "Vietnam," he said, 1971. Hale didn't move, he just stared. "You were a SEAL." It wasn't a question. Ray nodded once, Yes, sir. Hale set his clipboard down on a nearby bench. He crossed his arms. What was your unit? SEAL Team One Delta Platoon. Hale's eyes narrowed. Delta Platoon ran the Mekong, heavy contact, some of the worst ops of the war. Ray said nothing. How many tour? Hale asked. 3. 3 tour Delta Platoon. Hale shook his head slowly. And now you're cleaning gyms. Ray looked down. It's honest work, sir. Hale didn't respond right away. He just stood there, watching this man. This old, quiet man who had seen things most people couldn't imagine. What's your full name? Hale asked. Raymond Cole. Hale repeated it silently. He made a mental note. Thank you, Mr. Cole, he said finally. Ray nodded. He turned back to the mirror. Hale picked up his clipboard and walked away. But his mind was already moving. That night, Hale sat in his office. The lights were dim, the base was quiet. He pulled up the old personnel records. It took some digging. A lot of the files from that era were incomplete, scanned poorly, buried under decades of bureaucracy. But he found it. Raymond Cole. SEAL Team 1, Delta Platoon, 1969–1973. 3 combat deployments, Mekong Delta operations, direct action, reconnaissance, prisoner recovery. Hale scrolled through the commendations. Navy Cross, Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars with Valor, Purple Heart twice. Hale sat back in his chair. He stared at the screen. This man had been one of the best. And now he was mopping floors. The next morning, Hale called a formation. Full gym, every SEAL on base. They gathered in the main training room. Confused, annoyed, they had workouts to finish. Hale stood at the front, arms behind his back. His face was unreadable. I want to talk to you about respect, he said. The room went quiet. Some of you have been here a few years. Some of you just got your trident last month. You walk around this place like you own it. And in a way, you do. You earned that. He paused. But let me tell you something. The man who cleans this building, Ray Cole, he earned it 50 years ago. A few confused glances. Hale continued. Ray Cole was a SEAL before most of your fathers were born. He ran ops in the Mekong Delta, 3 tour, Delta Platoon. If you know your history, you know what that means. The room was still. He has a Navy Cross, a Silver Star, 3 Bronze Stars with Valor. He was shot twice. He pulled men out of rivers under fire. He did things you only read about. Hale's voice was calm, but it cut. And some of you walk past him like he's invisible. No one spoke. I'm not saying you have to salute him. I'm not saying you have to thank him every time you see him, but you will treat him with the respect he deserves, because he's one of us, and he always will be. Hale looked around the room. Dismissed. The men filed out in silence. Ray was in the locker room that afternoon. He was wiping down the benches, same routine, same quiet focus. A young SEAL walked in, the same one who had made the comment a few days earlier. He stopped when he saw Ray. He stood there for a moment, then he stepped forward. Hey, he said. Ray looked up. The SEAL shifted his weight, uncomfortable. I didn't know about your service. Ray nodded slowly. It's all right. No, man, it's not, the SEAL exhaled. Commander told us what you did where you served. Ray didn't respond. He just folded the towel in his hands. I just wanted to say, thank you and I'm sorry. Ray met his eyes. He gave a small nod. You're doing good work, keep it up. The SEAL stood a little straighter. Yes, sir. He left. Ray went back to wiping down the bench. Over the next few weeks, things changed. Not dramatically, not loudly. But the men started to notice him. They held the door. They picked up their own towels. They said good morning. One of the senior chief started bringing him coffee on early shifts. Another asked him about the Mekong. Ray answered briefly, respectfully. He didn't tell war stories, he just answered the question. The gym felt different. One evening, Ray was finishing up. The building was empty, the lights were low. Commander Hale walked in. "Ray," he said. Ray turned, "Commander." Hale walked over. He leaned against the wall. "I've been thinking, you don't need to be doing this." Ray tilted his head slightly. "I don't mind it, sir." "I know you don't, but there are other roles on base. Veteran liaison, training advisory. You could work with the new guys, share what you know." Ray was quiet for a moment. "I appreciate that, sir," he said, "but I'm good where I am." Hale studied him. "Why?" Ray set down his mop. He looked around the gym, the weights, the ropes, the pull-up bars. "I like being close to it," he said. "The work, the men. It reminds me of when I was useful." "You're still useful." Ray smiled faintly. "Maybe, but this is enough." Hale nodded. He didn't push. "All right," he said, "but if you change your mind, I'll let you know." Hale extended his hand. Ray shook it. "Thank you for your service, Ray." Ray held his gaze. "Thank you for yours, Commander." Months passed. Ray kept cleaning. But now when he walked through the gym, the men stepped aside. They greeted him. They asked him how he was doing. One afternoon, a young SEAL candidate, barely 22, sat down on a bench near where Ray was working. The kid looked exhausted, frustrated, like he was thinking about quitting. Ray noticed. He didn't say anything at first. He just kept wiping down the equipment nearby. Then quietly he spoke. "It gets easier," Ray said. The kid looked up. "Not the training," Ray continued. "That stays hard, but you get stronger, you learn to carry it." The kid nodded slowly. "Were you a SEAL?" Ray glanced at him. "Long time ago." "Did you ever feel like quitting?" Ray thought about it every day. "But you didn't." "No." The kid sat with that for a moment, then he stood. "Thanks." Ray nodded. The kid walked back toward the training room. Ray watched him go. One morning, Ray came in early. The sun was just starting to rise. The base was still quiet. He unlocked the gym, turned on the lights, pushed his cart inside. He stopped in the doorway. On the wall near the entrance, someone had put up a plaque. It was small, simple. It read, "In honor of Raymond Cole, SEAL Team One Delta Platoon, Vietnam 1969-1973, Navy Cross, Silver Star, a quiet professional." Ray stood there. He didn't cry, he didn't smile. He just looked at it. Then he nodded to himself. He picked up his mop. And he went to work. The plaque stayed. No one took it down. Ray never mentioned it. He walked past it every morning. Sometimes he glanced at it. Most days he didn't. But the men noticed. Especially the new ones. The candidates who showed up tired and scared, and unsure if they belonged. They would see the plaque. They would see Ray pushing his cart. They would put it together. And something about that steadied them. Winter came. The California coast turned gray and cold. The ocean was rough. The training got harder. A new class of candidates arrived. Younger, louder, full of confidence that hadn't been tested yet. One of them was a kid named Martinez. 23, stocky, talked too much, thought he had something to prove. He walked into the gym on his second day and saw Ray emptying a trash can near the rowing machines. "Yo, Janitor," Martinez called out. "We got a leak in the shower, third stall. You gonna fix that or what?" Ray looked up. He didn't react. He just nodded. "I'll take a look." Martinez smirked. He turned back to his buddies. Man, they really scraping the bottom for staff around here. One of the older SEALs, a guy named Riggs, overheard it. He walked over, he didn't say anything. He just stared at Martinez. Martinez noticed. What? Riggs pointed at the plaque on the wall. You see that? Martinez glanced over, he shrugged. Yeah, so. That's him. Martinez frowned. What? The janitor, that's Raymond Cole, the guy on the plaque. Martinez looked back at Ray, then at the plaque, then at Riggs. Wait, that old dude. That old dude has more combat experience than everyone in this building combined. Riggs stepped closer. So you're gonna watch your mouth, and you're gonna show some respect. Clear. Martinez swallowed. Yeah, clear. Riggs walked away. Martinez stood there. He looked over at Ray again. Ray was already walking toward the showers, carrying a toolbox, not paying attention to any of it. Martinez didn't say anything else that day. A week later, the candidates were running through Hell Week prep. Cold water drills, log carries, sand and everything. Martinez was struggling. He was strong, but he wasn't mentally ready. Every time something got hard, he complained, he argued, he looked for shortcuts. The instructors were watching. One night after a brutal surf drill, Martinez sat alone in the locker room. He was shivering. His hands were shaking. He looked like he was about to break. Ray was cleaning nearby. He was wiping down the sinks. He saw the kid. He didn't say anything at first. Martinez looked up. His voice was quiet, angry. This is bullshit. Ray kept wiping. I'm serious, man, this whole thing. It's designed to make you fail. Ray set the rag down. He turned slowly. It is, Ray said. Martinez blinked. What? It's designed to make you fail, Ray repeated. His voice was calm, flat. That's the point. Martinez stared at him. Ray leaned against the counter. They don't want to know if you're strong. They already know you're strong. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. He paused. They want to know what you do when you fail, when you're cold, when you're tired, when every part of you is screaming to quit. Martinez said nothing. Because that's the job, Ray continued. It's not about being tough. It's about being steady. When everything's falling apart, when your boys are counting on you, when there's no one coming to save you. He straightened up. So yeah, it's designed to make you fail. And you get to decide what happens next. Ray picked up his rag and walked out. Martinez sat there. He didn't quit. Months passed. Martinez made it through selection. He earned his trident. The day of the ceremony, he walked into the gym afterward, still in his dress uniform. Ray was there, mopping the floor near the benches. Martinez walked over. Hey, Ray. Ray looked up. He saw the trident on Martinez's chest. He nodded. Congratulations. Martinez smiled. Thanks, I wanted to say something. Ray waited. That night, in the locker room, what you said, it stuck with me. Ray nodded slowly. Good. I almost quit that night. I was ready to ring the bell. But you didn't. No, Martinez looked down at his boots. Because of what you said about being steady. Ray didn't respond, he just listened. So thank you. Ray extended his hand. Martinez shook it. You earned it, Ray said. Now go do the work. Martinez nodded. He stepped back. He left the gym. Ray went back to mopping. Years went by. Ray kept working. His back got stiffer. His hands shook a little more. But he showed up. Every morning, every night. The men kept coming, kept training, kept deploying. Some of them came back, some of them didn't. Ray cleaned the gym after every memorial service. He never went to the services themselves. He stayed in the background, but afterward, when the building was empty, he would walk through slowly. He would look at the photos they put up, the faces of men who had been there just weeks before. He never cried, but he always paused. One afternoon, Commander Hale found him sitting on a bench in the corner of the gym. Ray wasn't working, he was just sitting, staring at the floor. Hale walked over. "You all right, Ray?" Ray looked up, he nodded. "Yeah, just tired." Hale sat down next to him. "You've been doing this a long time." "I have." "You ever think about retiring, for real this time?" Ray was quiet for a moment. He looked around the gym. The weights, the ropes, the men training in the distance. "I think about it," he said, "but then I come in the next day." Hale smiled faintly. "Why?" Ray thought about it. "Because they need to see it." "See what?" "That you can still serve, even when you're old, even when no one's watching, even when it's small." Hale nodded. He understood. They sat in silence for a while. Then Hale stood. He put a hand on Ray's shoulder. "You're a good man, Ray." Ray looked up at him. "So are you, Commander." Hale walked away. Ray sat there a little longer. Then he stood, picked up his mop, and got back to work. One morning, Ray didn't show up. The gym felt different. The men noticed. By noon, word spread. Ray had collapsed at home the night before. Heart attack. He was in the hospital. Commander Hale drove there immediately. Ray was in a bed, hooked up to monitors. He looked small, pale. But he was awake. Hale walked in. He pulled up a chair. "Ray." Ray turned his head slowly. He tried to smile. "Commander." "How you feeling?" "Like hell." Hale laughed quietly. "Yeah, I bet." Ray's voice was weak. "I'm sorry about work. I'll be back." "Stop," Hale said gently. "You're not going back, not like that." Ray's face fell. "You've done enough, Ray," Hale said. "More than enough." Ray looked away. "I don't know what else to do." Hale leaned forward. "You rest, you take care of yourself, you let us take care of you for once." Ray didn't respond. Hale stood. "I'll check on you tomorrow." Ray nodded. Hale left. Ray stared at the ceiling. He felt empty. 2 weeks later, Ray was released. He was told to take it easy. No heavy lifting, no long hours. He went home to his small apartment. One bedroom, a couch, a TV he never watched. He sat on the couch. The silence was unbearable. A month passed. Ray stayed home. He tried to adjust, tried to find a routine. But every morning, he woke up and didn't know what to do. Then one afternoon, there was a knock on his door. Ray opened it. Standing there were 6 SEALs, young guys, a few he recognized, a few he didn't. One of them stepped forward. "Hey, Ray." Ray blinked. "What are you all doing here?" "We heard you were laid up, thought we'd check in." Ray didn't know what to say. They came inside, they brought food. They sat around his small living room, they told stories, they asked him questions. They stayed for 2 hours. When they left, one of them, Martinez, hung back. "We're gonna keep coming by," Martinez said. "Once a week, make sure you're good." Ray's voice was rough. "You don't have to do that." "Yeah, we do." Martinez smiled. "You took care of us, now we take care of you." Ray just nodded. Martinez left. Ray closed the door. He sat back down on the couch. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel alone. The visits continued. Every week, different guys, sometimes the same ones. They brought meals. They watched games with him. They fixed things around his apartment. They never made a big deal out of it. It was just what you did. 6 months later, Ray got a call from Commander Hale. "How are you feeling?" Hale asked. "Better," Ray said, and he meant it. "Good, because I have something for you." "What's that?" "We're dedicating the new training wing, and we want you there." Ray hesitated. "I don't know, Commander, I'm not really." "Ray, you're coming, that's an order." Ray smiled faintly. Yes, sir. The day of the dedication, Ray wore his old Navy uniform. It was tight in some places, loose in others, but it still fit. He walked onto the base, slowly, using a cane now. The men saw him. They stopped what they were doing. One by one, they stood at attention. Ray didn't salute, he just nodded as he passed. He made his way to the new building. A crowd had gathered, senior officers, younger SEALs, families. Commander Hale stood at a podium. He saw Ray and motioned him forward. Ray shook his head. He stayed in the back. Hale began his speech. He talked about legacy, about service, about the men who came before. Then he paused. This building is named after a man who embodies everything we stand for. Quiet, professional, steady. He gestured toward the building. A banner dropped. It read, Raymond Cole Training Facility. The crowd applauded. Ray stood still. He didn't cry, but his eyes were wet. Commander Hale looked at him across the crowd. He gave a single nod. Ray nodded back. After the ceremony, Ray walked through the new building. It smelled like fresh paint, new floors, clean walls. He ran his hand along the railing. He thought about all the years, all the floors he'd cleaned, all the men he'd watched. A young SEAL candidate walked past him. The kid paused. He looked at the name on the building, then at Ray. Is that you? The kid asked. Ray looked at him. Yeah. The kid stood a little straighter. It's an honor, sir. Ray nodded. Keep working, you'll get there. The kid smiled and walked on. Ray stood there. He looked around the empty hallway. Then he turned and walked outside. The sun was setting over the ocean. The base was quiet. Ray took a deep breath. He had been a lot of things. A SEAL, a warrior, a janitor. But most of all, he had been steady. And that was enough. He walked slowly toward the parking lot. His cane tapped against the pavement. And behind him, the building stood. Silent, strong, watching over the men who would come next.